Conti, bella palla per Rebic, Ibra, Rebic, il tiro, goal!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Torgrew.
Hey guys, I'm sad.
Madison.
Yeah, I guess this is going to be an interesting episode, and we have a babyface John.
Yep, back with a working mic, same pet as last week, but it works now.
Yeah, great stuff. It's Valentine's Day. We're recording on Valentine's Day, which is great. Apart from the fact that we were stood up by our one true love, AC Milan. We all tuned in for a I don't know, an inspiring Saturday night performance in which we were going to move 5 points clear of Inter. We were going to take advantage of Juve's slip up against Napoli, and we were going to beat Spezia, who, you know, despite having already toppled some decent sides this season, sat, 6 points above the drop zone, 2 places above the bottom 3. And it didn't happen. It just really didn't happen. It was pretty bad. I'll let you watch fire in.
It's pretty awful. Credit to Spezia, though. They've actually taken more points off the top 6 than Roma has this season. So,
Spezia scored some pretty great goals. The second one was fantastic. The first one was it looked like a mistake on our defense and communication.
Yeah, that was Romagnoli's fault.
Romagnoli underestimated the attack from Spezia, but we can talk about that later. We really just looked like shit.
Yeah, it was uninspiring, pathetic, really, from most of the lads. Like, they just didn't show up. They went into the game far too relaxed.
Do you think that's what it was? Because I think that there is absolutely no excuse for the lack of effort thing, because we had a week off, basically. We've had this spell where, because we got knocked out of the Coppa Italia quarter-final, which we were all told was a blessing, because then we just had 2 league games to focus on before we have Red Star, we have Inter, and then Roma after the second leg. And maybe that might have inadvertently knocked us out of our rhythm, because we finally had that, I think it looked like anyway, because we haven't been used to having that first choice 11, or certainly like from the midfield forward with Kessié, Benacer, Salamakers, Çalhanoğlu. We chose to go with Rafa Leao on the left, and obviously Ibra up front. That was like the first choice from 6 players that you can field, and it looked like they'd never played together before. Do you think it was just the fact that we haven't seen them play together that much this season, or do we have to credit Spezia? Or, I have my own theory, which we'll come on to, but I'll throw it out.
Yeah, I do think it's a little ironic that our, best 11 is the one with the least amount of chemistry, because they've played together, I believe, twice this season. And obviously this wasn't even the full best 11, but it was the closest we've had in quite some time. And I think a part of it was, like you said, they were pretty comfortable, that all the stars seem to be aligning with our scheduling leading up to the derby, and Inter's schedule, Juve dropping points. And I think because we've only played Spezia one other time in the club's history, and we thrashed them 3-0 pretty easily in the beginning of the season, that maybe they did underestimate. I mean, I know I went into the game thinking it was a foregone conclusion that we were just going to pick up an easy W. And by the 20th minute, I'm like, why haven't we scored yet? And then it just went south.
After the past 10 years, I really never think there's going to be an easy W win, because I'm a depressed sports fan, and Detroit sports have done that to me, as well as being an AC Milan and Everton fan. But I think that with Çalhanoğlu and Ibra as striker, the game moves a lot slower. And with Salamakers and Leao on the wing, it tends to move faster. And so I think they just could not work together very well, because, as you said, they've played together twice this season in that lineup. So they clearly needed to work on that. And I think the team plays a lot better when Leao is striker, even though Ibra has put in so many goals, but the team is young and fast. And so having Ibra and Çalhanoğlu in there, it just slows things down. So we were not prepared to play at that pace.
Yeah, I think we went into the game with just complacency. Like, the lads will have seen the Juventus-Napoli result and thinking, even if we do slip up here, we're still all right. We've still got the cushion that we had before. And then when the game started, it looked even more like that. And there were probably some thoughts in the head thinking, hang on, Inter are playing Lazio tomorrow. Inter probably may slip up. So, yeah, we can take it easy. And I personally think we underestimated how good they are. I mean, they've taken points off Rome and Napoli, Atalanta, Sassuolo, Fiorentina this season. And we just looked completely off the pace and uninteresting. I don't think there's any excuse not even to put effort in. Maybe part of it's to do with the fact that we haven't got out of gear all season and we thought this is just another game where we can sit back and we know that we can score a couple of goals anyway, but we just didn't look like we cared one bit.
No, it was really bad. And I think that people might kick off at this and say losing 3-0 at home to Lille and to Atalanta is worse. But for me, this was comfortably our worst performance of the season. Because you're going to lose to good teams. Most good teams lose to other good teams as the season goes on. And in a way, there is no shame, maybe not no shame, but it's happened to other teams that have been outfought and outthought by Atalanta this season. It's happening to basically every other team in Liga because Lille are top and they're having a fantastic season. We've dropped points at home against Hellas and Parma, but let's be honest, on another day, we'd have probably won those games because we created so many chances and we moved through the gears. The reason this is so bad is certainly because we had the week of rest leading up to it. So we should have been going into this firing on all cylinders, especially after our heaviest win of the season at home against Crotone, albeit they are a hopeless side. And absolutely nothing clicked at all. We didn't have a single shot on target. That hasn't happened in a very long time. Like, that is bad. Now, this didn't happen against an Atalanta or a Lille. This happened against a team that, certainly going into the game yesterday, are in a relegation fight. They're 2 bad results away from being very firmly in a relegation fight. Now, I know they've picked up points against other top teams this season. I think the team and I think Vincenzo Italiano deserve a lot of credit because the way that they're set up is to be very, very difficult to play against teams that they should be showing respect to. But they're one of the only teams that I can say this season, especially away from home, have stood up to us and said, no, actually, you're going to have to, answer the questions that we pose to you. And we didn't have an answer for any of it. Nothing worked down the middle of the pitch. There were uncharacteristically bad games from the likes of Teo and from Ibra, and the right side was basically a black hole because Dallo and Salamakers just couldn't get going at all. Nothing worked. It was bad. And I'm split between, like I said in our group chat last night, in a sadistic way, I kind of enjoyed it because I think it's a proof perhaps that in modern football, in these David v Goliath type games, there is still a way that a coach can out-coach another coach and find a way to win no matter what the sum of the parts of the team is. And we were thoroughly outplayed. Like, really, really, we were outshot, we were out-battled, and that's what worries me a bit. There was no fight in the team. Like, Pioli came out after the game and said, we're not in a position to be able to win ugly yet. I'd argue that we've done that quite a lot this season. I think we've won ugly games this season where we haven't been at our best.
Yeah, you'll get the Udinese game, and what was the game where
Sampdoria, where we won
Sampdoria?
2-1. Genoa, where we had to grind out a point. Yeah,
there was a game where Ibra had someone scored a goal, but then it was caught off because Ibra's offside, and then he scored in stoppage time for the winner. That was the ugliest win I've seen in a long time. I can't remember which game it was.
That was the Hellas Verona.
It was
game.
Okay.
Yeah.
We drew 2-2 with them.
Yeah, we've had games where we've won ugly, though, definitely. And the impression that I got from that game last night was that we were taught a lesson in the first 45 minutes about what Spezia could do.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that really worries me is that we keep getting beaten the same way. And it's by teams that press us high, which means we don't have the same freedom on the ball. We had 52% possession yesterday. People might be shocked by the fact that we had more at all, but that's pretty low for us. And the reason is, especially with pressing high, they did it well. A lot of teams can't do that. They'd have been cut up, and they pressed us high. They packed out the midfield. They had a 3-man midfield. They play a 4-3-3, and then you had almost their wingers playing as inside forwards. So we could literally just not do anything, and they forced us wide, and we didn't know what to do.
Well, and one thing that they did really well was once they got that lead, most small sides, when they get a lead, especially against the league leaders, they sit back and try to defend that lead. And that's when we now get the space to move in, push forward. And they didn't. They just stuck with the same thing. And the only way you score on that is, a well-placed counter, but like you said, our guys were not firing. So they were able to just continue to put the pressure on and never let up. And it showed, I think in the second half, we didn't get into their half of the pitch until like the 70th minute or so. It was really bad. Yeah. And there was one sequence there, and I don't remember the exact minute, but where 12 straight passes were either to or from Donnarumma. I mean, we could not get out of the back line. It was pass to Kier, back to Donnarumma, pass to Romagnoli, back to Donnarumma. It was, nonstop. It was easily the worst performance I've seen from us this season.
Yeah, I think a couple of good points will come out of this match, though. So it'll test us on our bounce back. I know we've said it before, but when you lose to Juventus and Atalanta, you expect them losses. So it's fairly easy to come back from when you kind of expect loss. When you don't expect it, I think that's where the challenge actually comes, because the lads will morally, like mentally, just be thinking, wow, that's bad. So for me, I'd be like looking ahead to Thursday. I'd be playing the majority of them players. Don't give them a rest. They don't deserve a rest. They didn't work hard enough for the rest, and they need some confidence back in them, because we've got the most important game of the season coming up on Sunday.
There's two players I think should be rested. I think Dallo should be rested and Kier should be rested, simply because Tomori and Calabria need to be starting. They're just.
What about Ibra?
better.
You think Ibra can play 3 games in a week?
No, he should realistically be rested too. I was just making a point about them being poor.
Yeah, and it being benched rather than perhaps rested.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I was trying to.
I think you can put what happened yesterday on a lot of different things, but if you want a reason as to why we were absolutely ineffective when we had the ball, you really realise that when all of Kessié, Benacer and Hakan have bad games, we have nothing. Mm-hmm. We have absolutely nothing. Like, yeah, but they crowded us out really well. They didn't give any of those players time on the ball. That's great. Even Teo, like I say, had an uncharacteristically bad game. They were happy to let Dallo off the ball or make him defend because he didn't do either particularly well. But what they did is force us over the top. And when we were lumping long balls to Ibra, they had 2 centre-backs. They were basically double teaming Ibra. And just having two deeper midfielders to look after Hakan, and that was why both of them were completely ineffective in the game as well. There's not many players that can walk out of that with their heads held high. And I'm 50-50 between it being the players at fault and also now do we have to look at Pioli and say, we really don't have a plan B for when a team gets the press right against us?
I don't know if I agree with that. I think his changes were good. I know he said that they didn't work. But he made a triple sub. Like, how do you say you're not going for it when you make a triple sub, and they were good. He brought on an extra attacker and Mandzukic. He brought on Tomori, who was needed because Kier was feeling a little bad. And I would argue Romagnoli did worse than Kier, but Kier had that big knock on his back, so he kind of needed it. And he brought Mete on as well for Benacer, who wasn't looking too hot either. So I think he made the right changes.
Didn't he do Mandzukic for Leao?
He did. I didn't get that. We actually, hang on, I want to interject with a question about this. Because Greg said, isn't Mandzukic meant to be the deputy to Ibrahimovic? Why is he being used as a winger? I get he played there at Juve, but he doesn't fit our system in that way. And I agree with that.
I think it was more so throwing a second striker on, trying to get a goal.
Yeah, but for Leao, I don't agree with. Take off Salamakers.
I agree with that bit, but when, were we 2-0 down at that point or 1-0 down?
1-0 at that point.
1, and you're still chasing the game and you're struggling. And the game that we were playing was hitting the ball straight up. So when you've got someone like Mandzukic up there, Ibra up there, you bring Mete on, who is quite tall and physical. That was clearly his game plan, was just to hit the ball long and hope something come off it. But I just can't figure out why you'd bring Leao off for it. Because he's our outlet for pace. If you're like for a counter attack, you need Leao. He's literally one of the quickest players on the team, so he's someone that you need up there, especially when you're chasing a game. If they get a corner, just leave him up. Boom, let's get it gone. And for the flick-ons of Ibra and Mandzukic, that bit that I didn't get, but the rest of the subs, I kind of agree with. I don't think he got them wrong, really.
I would agree. Leao probably should have stayed on.
I don't even mean the subs. I just think that from probably the 20th minute, got to like the 20th minute, and I thought we aren't getting going here at all. Like, we're getting nothing. Fair enough. Normally we manage 1 or 2 shots on target in that time, and you think, okay, we're going to have to win ugly here. We haven't got that early goal. We were getting nothing.
Yeah, but you don't make changes in the 20th minute off.
No, I'm not saying make subs, but can you change the approach in some way?
Sure.
Or are we literally only going to be a rigid 4-2-3-1 team that when we're not clicking, we just have to accept that we're going to get outplayed.
Yeah,
I just feel like at that point you don't want to make wholesale changes in that early on. I get what you're saying, but at least give it till halftime, have your team talk, and then you just try to reestablish what you're doing that has got you to top of the table 22 games into the season. And at that point, if it's still not working, then you do what he did. And to be fair, their first goal was led from something that usually is a surefire shot on target for us. Donnarumma slid the ball to Teo. He made that blazing run down the middle, knifing through the center, and he got dispossessed and it led to a counter that scored. That never happens to Teo, but it did. And then he made the subs, and it just so happened immediately after those subs were made was the free kick / penalty / fucking goal, whatever bullshit. And at that point, it was like, oh, it was beautiful. It was one of the best I've seen all season. But at that point, that kills everyone, including your subs that just came on. It's like, okay, now the best we could do is a draw. We're not getting 3 goals in 10 minutes,
Yeah.
I agree with Ollie, though, because after 20 minutes, I think you could have changed the game without making a sub. You can go to a 4-4-2 and help the midfield out more by putting, say, Hakan on the left and Sally on the right, moving out top, or go to a 4-3-3 and put Hakan in the middle with Benacer and Kessie when we're clearly getting overrun in the middle of the park. And instead, we just left the player coming back from injury and a clearly knackered Kessie running against a fully fit Spezia side that were up for the challenge because they're playing top of the league and they're a newly promoted side. You see it in every league, like the newly promoted side, they care more about beating the top teams to prove that they belong in the league instead of going against the little ones as such. And I think that's just what they did. But I think after 20 minutes, he could have changed the tactics around slightly just to give some more security to the middle of the park.
The big litmus test will be next week in the derby, which we've obviously got to talk about. But if we lose in the same... Well, first of all, if we have a first 20 minutes like we did yesterday against Inter, we will be 2-0 down. There's no question about it. They have the players to hurt us for that naivety. They have the quality to do that. Secondly, if we struggle and we lose in a similar manner in that derby where, we just don't get going, we don't look like creating anything, it's all one-way traffic, which is not out of the question. If Inter win tonight, they're kicking off in about 20 minutes. If Inter win tonight, they'll go into it full of confidence that they can turn us over. Then we have to start looking because of the way that they play. They play 3 at the back, but more importantly, they play 3 central midfielders. And again, it's all about the press. It's all about overcrowding us in the midfield. And that was our kryptonite basically last season. And has sort of started to be like that this season already. I mean, I know Lille played a 4-4-2, but if you look at the Atalanta game, again, thoroughly outplayed. Yesterday, 3-man midfield, just couldn't get anything going. I'll be worried, and I think Pioli will start thinking about a plan B if we don't get a favourable result in the derby. Otherwise, it maybe just looks like a blip on the record.
I think he needs to make his plan B before the derby, and I think he needs to experiment with it in the game against Red Star on Thursday, whether that's just going to a 4-3-3, a 4-4-2, or just adapting the 4-2-3-1 slightly so your attacking midfielder comes and sits back in centre mid when we're up against it. It all depends how that game goes, but I don't think we can go into the Inter match without a plan B. We need to just, like we've seen so many times this season, from the off, we've just got to be on it and attack them right away, and that'll put Inter under pressure, and it might give us much needed confidence.
Well, in every game we've played against Inter under Pioli, we have done that, and we've gone up early. The 4-2 defeat, we were up 2-0 at half. The 2-0 win, 2-0 at half against in the cup. We were up in the
1-0
early on as well. So I mean, that's the key to beat them. We know what needs to be done against them, and we've done it against every other team bar the 3 that have really embarrassed us. So I don't know if a plan B against Inter is necessary. I think we had the blueprint. Let's get our minds right. Let's beat Red Star. And let's get back on track. I think that's what needs to be done. And I know Ibra and Mandzukic are the type of guys to be able to say, look, we fucked up, but we can't let this get to us. Let's get back to what we're doing, show them who we are. And I think we could get that done. It's just a matter of can the younger guys kind of overcome that mental hurdle.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've gotten this far using the game plan just because we have one bad loss and looked horrible in one game. I don't think you need to completely have a plan B. I think that, you can change a few things up, but the players have to get their head right because at the end of the day, they're the ones on the field who are playing, and Pioli can only do so much when the game starts.
I do think we need a plan B, though. I don't think we should use plan B from the get-go, but I think we got to have some sort of backup because, it's one, but it's 3 games where we've been beaten with the same tactic by same type of teams with almost the same scoreline in all of them. So definitely need a plan B, but I don't think we need to use it.
Not a plan B from the get-go, definitely to be able to adapt in games, I think. But we say that the 4-2-3-1's working, and it is, but we've lost as many times in this kind of year as we did the whole last calendar year. If not, I think we've lost one more. I think teams are starting to figure us out now and see how we play, and that is where the plan B needs to come in, just to shock the opponent. It'll complete to know how we play. Like last 3 games, we've shown them that we'll just attack from the off. Maybe going into the Inter game, you do change it up a bit and you just surprise them with a bit of a different tactic and a different game plan and try to get something from it. Because if we approach the game like we have been this year, then I think we're going to be in for a very, very long afternoon.
Let's talk about Romagnoli real quick.
Go ahead. Hang on. I'll ask the question afterwards. Dare I say as well, it doesn't have to be a different formation when I talk about us having a plan B. We can still have the 4-2-3-1, but in game, if things aren't working, maybe you switch the wingers or you throw a bit of a curveball by having Hakan go wide left, so that when we get the ball into wide areas, we know we've got a dangerous delivery coming in. Or you do something where you swap the double pivot around, or there are different solutions. But again,
I also think when we're playing against the high press, we need to stack our mid, have those 3 up top, fall back, and now give us a 5-man mid, because that's where we're getting overran in these high press.
We need to play compact. And we've done it against teams, actually. We've had some games. Sassuolo is the one that springs to mind where we went and won 2-1 away there. We actually adapted really well to a team that plays a 4-3-3 and is actually very intense and makes things very difficult. With the injuries that we had, that was a fantastic win at the time. I know Sassuolo have kind of fallen off since, but that's an example of how we can slightly change things up. And Teo was basically playing as like a 4th midfielder. He was getting into that many central areas. So maybe you just need to pose different questions when things aren't going well. If we can't get the ball down the middle, maybe you play Leao down the middle and say, okay, let him get the ball and turn and run. I actually think, and I know this is all benefit of hindsight and stuff, I actually think Brahim Diaz might have done a job yesterday, for example, because they were just clearly playing with 2 lines and it worked perfectly. However, if you've got Brahim, someone who is going to sit in that hole and is going to turn and is going to bear down on goal, like I say, I think it'd have asked different questions, and I think it might have just at least had a shot on goal. A shot on target would have been nice yesterday. That was the worst thing about it for me. Anyway, the Romagnoli question. I've got a list of them.
Okay.
We got one. I want to throw it out there so I don't repeat it. But this was from Greg as well, actually. Lots of blame to go around for the Spezia game, but Romagnoli provides another flop, adding insult to injury with his post-game comments. Is he our captain of the future with this playing mentality? Brave question. I like it.
It's a brave question, and I think he's going to get some brave answers here. Who wants to start?
Everyone knows how I feel about Romagnoli, so
we might as well just edit Maddie from last week into this bit. And
we're kind of on the same page here. I think I've said it before, with Donnarumma's contract renewal coming up, I think you've just got to offer him the captaincy now. He's more of a leader on the pitch, off the pitch, than Romagnoli is. And I like Romagnoli, don't get me wrong, but he's quiet on the field and you can hear it more when there's no fans in the ground. There's only one voice that you hear, and it's Gijo's. If it's not Gijo's, it's obviously Pioli's, because he's a coach. And then coming out and saying we underestimated our opponent, but then contradicting what your manager said, it's just sloppy all around. And he's wanting a contract renewal of more money, or Raiola is, whichever way you look at it, and he just doesn't deserve it, and he's just doesn't look like a captain at the minute.
Yeah, you could argue that it's his fault for that game. I mean, he assisted that first goal, and it was a ball that was going straight into Gigio's arms. There was no need for him to get in the way, and yet he went for a slide tackle, poked it away from Gigio point blank, right into him. And at that point, like, when you're making mistakes like that, you're hurting everyone. That's killing your morale, and it already did.
I'd expect that mistake from Kalulu, Gabbia, Tomori to an extent, but from the captain just to be so reckless, poor. It's just, so many words. It's awful to see, and I just don't see how there's a way for him to carry on being captain at the minute with his performances and his
it's going to be difficult to strip him of the captaincy, because it's a massive statement if you do something like that. So I think that will only happen if he were to be sold this summer, which I wouldn't entirely rule out, even though, the rumour is that the management want to keep him and stuff. So here's where we are with Romagnoli. He's been here 6 years now, or 5.5 years. So he's been here over half a decade. And we're still at this point now where he was when he first came in, where he gives us one good game every two. That's not good enough.
No, I think he's been a great servant.
His derby's going to be fantastic.
If it is,
I hope
then
so.
I'll buy a shirt with his name on.
I have one, and I don't wear it. So.
Yeah, but we're at that point now where we thought at the age of 26 he would have really kicked on and he would have established himself as one of the best centre backs in the league. Is he one of the best centre backs in the league? No, he's not. You look around at our rivals, for example. Inter have De Vrij, Bastoni, and who's the other one? Skriniar to be able to call upon. All three of those are better than Romagnoli. And Bastoni, he's young, but for me, he's been better this season. He looks really comfortable in that system. Romagnoli,
Spezia have a better Bastoni too.
He's great, by the way. We should sign him as a deputy to Teo.
I was hoping that we would crush him so I can make we have Bastoni at home, the Bastoni at home, and then putting his picture instead of the other one. But that tweet never happened.
So keep that in the drafts for next season. And then you look at Juve, for example, who obviously is nowhere near as good as Dele. I don't even think he's as good as Demiral, who isn't even getting a regular game at the moment. And that's when I'm like, if we're going to take that next step, can you imagine Romagnoli against some of the skillful forwards that we'll have to come up against if we make the Champions League?
Haaland, Neymar.
It is going to be.
You just go through that list.
It won't be Haaland. They're not making Champions League this season. They're doing god awful.
They're struggling, actually, aren't they? It
might be when he goes to Manchester City, though.
Yeah, he'll go to Man City.
It goes to City. This is my idea, and I don't think anyone will go for it. I mean, the fans all will, but straight swap him for Tomori instead of that option. I know Chelsea wanted him a few years ago. Why not?
I would do it. Listen, I don't have any problem getting rid of Romagnoli. We owe him nothing.
That's what I'm saying. I just think Chelsea would never do it.
See, I saw an interesting report in midweek that basically said that actually we do owe Romagnoli something because he signed a contract extension. Was it 2017 or 2018?
It was when we were real bad.
Yeah, and said, he had offers that came from Atletico Madrid and Barcelona that summer, and he turned them both down to stay with us. So therefore, we owe him this new renewal. But the problem is he hadn't developed in those last 3 years. And
I expect nothing less from a captain. Do you know?
Yeah, that's true.
If someone comes in, your captain, they'd be like, no, unless it is, something that he really wants. Say, for example, Lazio coming for him, and we know he's a boyhood Lazio fan. You can't stop him going to his boyhood club. He reminds me of Jesse Lingard, who everyone keeps talking to him as if he's 21 still, and the potential come through. It'll come through. Like you said, 3 years now, and these performances haven't improved, and it is 1 every 2, 1 every 3 games where he's getting a good one. And it's just not. It's like mid-table to top to fifth place.
In Romagnoli's defense, he's been on the managerial carousel his entire time with us. This is the first time he's had a consistent manager that we were sticking with.
That's true.
But also, everyone's developed but him. He's the only one to stay stagnant under Pioli. So
Donnarumma's done great.
Yeah, he's improved great, but he's also generational talent.
Yeah, I also
regardless,
wouldn't compare
everyone
him
else
with a position player. I'm just trying to think, how many centre-back partners will Romagnoli have played with during his time at Milan?
That's another thing.
He's played with 4 this season alone. He's played with Pierre Tomori, Kalulu, and Musacchio this season alone.
Did he put Gabia?
Gabia, yes, that's 5.
Yeah, again, it's hard for him to understand, make a partnership with it, but you're the captain, you're supposedly the best defender on the team. Whoever you put next to you, you're the leader, you're supposed to cover for them. And Kalulu were covering for him in one game. At the start of the season, Gabia and Pierre looked more solid than Romagnoli does with Pierre. And we kept 3 straight clean sheets. Yeah. So you've just got to start asking questions. And maybe he'll be a good squad player for us, but next season, if we're in the Champions League, he's not a starter, I'm afraid.
All right, see you, Matty.
Bye, Maddie.
Maddie's fed up, that's fair. It's like me
He's
last
had
week.
enough of him.
I'm hoping not to cramp up this week, lads. But yeah, I don't know what happens now, because as you say, the contract situation means that we're coming to a crossroads in the summer. because we're going to want to avoid another Gigio and Hakan situation when it goes into the last 12 months, because nobody wants to negotiate on those terms. So I think
especially
it'll
with
happen one way or
Raiola.
another. Yeah,
I think
That was one thing that upset me, was that he even went with Raiola knowing that he wanted to stay. It's like, you know how this guy operates. You know, it was just making things more difficult.
I think we sell him in the summer, because I don't see him renewing his contract, and I don't see us letting him go for free. And I think it is just the perfect way to keep Gigio is by giving him the captain. That's the way that I see this going. Mm-hmm. Unless we don't get Champions League, then I don't see Gigio being here.
If we get Champions League, I think the best course of action to solve the problem for everyone is, like you said, sell Romagnoli. We get money. His price tag will still be decently high. I'd imagine we could get like 30 to 40 almost for him. And someone will want him. Plus, then the captaincy's open. There's no drama from stripping. We could renew Gigio at whatever rate he needs there. And that'll help us renew Hakan, because we'll have more money there and everyone else. So I do think that's the best course of action. Plus, if we redeem Tomori, then we're already set, having Gabia and Kalulu as backups.
One thing I will say is that people need to be prepared for when Romagnoli moves, gets sold, and is a big success at his new club. Because
I agree.
I think that what will happen is the team that takes a chance on him will be a team that plays a way that can get the best out of him. So I think of the teams in Italy that might take a punt on him, your Lazios and Napoli's, who obviously Napoli, for me on paper, is a great fit because they might finally sell Koulibaly this summer. So then they have the money to get a replacement. And we know what Romagnoli can do in Gattuso's system, because they play such a deep defensive line. He doesn't get exposed all the time. Lazio, the same, as you say, boiled club. They play with the similar style of having, Romagnoli could look fantastic in a back three. He's just never been tried in it.
Atalanta, he could look great.
We did play a back three under Montella.
Yeah, it was a brief and unsuccessful experimentation, I think it'd be fair to say. But yeah, I think we need to be ready for him to potentially go elsewhere and shine. Not saying become one of the best in the world or anything, but look more suited. That's if he goes, because I just don't see it working at the moment. Look, I'll reserve full judgment until Sunday. If he flops against Inter again, then that's it. No holds barred anymore.
He's got to go.
Yeah, we need him in big games. We need him. And he hasn't shown.
This is where your captain steps up, grabs the team by the scruff of the neck, and you put in a fucking performance today, lads. He's the best player on that pitch.
I'd rather him be a bastard. I'd rather him be a really, really chippy, nasty character. I'd rather him be difficult, because at the moment he's showing nothing. He's showing no emotion, nothing. He's coming out and giving confusing interviews, which, I guess he doesn't know what Pioli's said, so there's been crossed wires there. But I'd rather him be nasty to his teammates and say, no, look, you're putting me in a position to fail here, blah, blah, blah. I'd rather him be a vocal leader. I'd rather people say, wow, that he's really pushing these lads around.
In his defence, I'll flip it on the other side. The captain's armband at Milan is a massive weight, let's be fair. So his performances haven't got better, but they haven't got better since he's took the armband. We were seeing growth before he took the armband. Maybe it has just got a bit too much for him, so maybe stripping of the captain's day, all that weight off his shoulders, give it to Gigio, give it to Hakan, Kessie, someone else, and maybe he can just relax and play his game, and he might not feel responsible all the time and stuff like that. That could just be another factor for him.
So I just want to mention one more thing before we move on from the Spezia game, because I think it does need mentioning. Diogo Dalot keeps getting these opportunities time and time again. We've played him right back, we've played him left back now. Where you think he's looked better is kind of irrelevant, because for me, he just isn't cutting it.
Yeah, he looks best when he's flying back to Manchester.
That's funny, because I was about to make a joke. I was going to say, Diogo, thou go home. But I think yours is better.
Yeah, no, I think we
could have just gone Diogo home.
with Dalot, he does look a bit more comfortable at left back, even though he's naturally a right back. But I don't know. He's just yesterday's performance was shambolic, and people saying that he's clear of Calabria, blah blah blah. Calabria was a huge miss yesterday, and I don't care what people think of him. He was a massive miss, and 20 million for Dalot, it's just a no-go.
Yeah, it's too much. I do think having Calabria get suspended and missing Spezia was the right move. In hindsight, it didn't pay off, but I would if he played in that game against Spezia and we were looking as shitty as we were, he would be suspended for the Inter game, guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm thankful that he's back for it, and I don't see a way back for Delo now unless Teo gets injured, because surely he's got to look at Kalulu and think he's clear of him at right back. So the only option for him is left back, and even there, I'd rather play Mandzukic at left back before Delo sets on the field again. Like, that's how bad it is.
Oh, quite.
I thought about Montevivo, man.
I think it's perhaps an indication the fact that we were pushing. We weren't insistent on signing one, but we were apparently pushing for a new deputy left back in the January window, and I think that was pretty indicative because obviously we've got Kalulu who can play the backup right back and also be sort of like the fourth, fifth choice centre back. And I think the fact we were going for someone like a Matthias Wiener in the last few days of the January window is an indication that we are planning for life without Dalot. And it's really simple for me. Unless United come back and say 10, 12 million, they dangle us a carrot and they say, look, here's something. He's only 21. He could maybe go. And then I'll be like, oh, all right, because he can play both full-back positions. But then, the rumours of 20 mil is...
I'd argue he can't play left-back, not after what I've seen.
I'd argue that he's not even worth the wages that he's on.
I don't know what his wages are, and I agree.
Right. Yeah.
We might not be paying all of them. United might actually be paying 20% or something to not have him. That's how much they value him.
That's how bad he is.
Yeah.
I hope now people start realising how important Calabria is to us and start appreciating his performances, because it was really a big miss yesterday.
Well, I think
the whole team obviously were missing, but he is he's been one of our best players this season.
You look at the knock-on that comes from not having Calabria. We said about the balance of the team in that right side. The chemistry that he has with Salamakers is like massive. We see it, the way that they interchange and stuff. But then also what that brings with getting Benacer Kessie involved in the game, getting Çalhanoğlu involved in the game. When one link is out of place or not performing, then it seems to have a knock-on, which is a shame. So I'm looking forward to having Calabria back for the derby. Dalot's probably going to get a game at left back in Belgrade against Red Star. I think Kalulu will start at right back. Well, you got to rest Teo for the derby, surely.
Yes. You do, but like I said earlier, do any of them really deserve a rest? Like, did they put enough effort into even warrant a rest? I know it sounds harsh, but the way that they performed, maybe a week's rest is no good for them, because when we've been playing every 3 days, we've seen more intensity, more effort, fight from them. So I'm not saying a week rest obviously is good, but I don't think they deserve it. I don't think, bar Gigio, really, no one deserves a rest.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I bet Gigio is one who actually gets rested for Tatarashanu. So, yeah. What we'll do then, I suppose, is a quick derby preview. Still unsure yet at the moment, but I'm hoping to maybe
I think the game's on Sunday, isn't it?
Sunday afternoon.
Oh, yeah, we got to do a preview regardless. So
yeah. But we'll do
virtual tickets.
Yes, buy your virtual tickets. Go on Milan website. What's it called? Derby for everyone or something?
Derby together.
Derby together. Yeah, that's it. That's the campaign slogan they're going with. You can buy a virtual ticket. It's €10, and then you also get a virtual mini gift pack thing with a limited edition keyring and a personalised.
They send you like actual things that I can.
Yeah. So that's good because all the proceeds go to the Milan Foundation.
Right.
So definitely get
now, let me ask you this,
that.
because I was looking at it. It's a virtual seat. Will our faces be in the stands like on some fucking video thing?
No.
I don't want it.
No, I was hoping that they would be, to be fair. Like, they'd ask for a picture and maybe do like a cardboard cutout or something.
I'd upload a donkey. I'd upload a picture of a donkey.
Well, Lukaku will be playing.
Didn't Leeds have a picture of Osama bin Laden in their?
Yeah, that's probably what we're not doing.
And Jimmy Savile.
No, he was just actually going to the games. He was a Leeds fan. So yeah, that'll be fun. So please go on and do that if you haven't already. I say it like we're part of the club or whatever, but do support it because it's a great initiative. Obviously, all funds for charity and stuff like that. So that will be good. Still unsure, might have a pre-derby preview special episode to upload. Look for that later in the week, and no doubt it'll be on Twitter if we're going to do one. But yeah, we'll do a quick derby preview now. we're watching into right now. They're playing against Lazio as we're recording. A lot of how I feel about this game is going to depend on how Inter look in this game. If they look like they're starting to choke under pressure against an informed side at home, I'll feel a bit more comfortable going into it. But at the moment, I'm pretty scared about this one.
Well, I'm watching right now.
I'm never scared. Sorry, but I mean, I'm apprehensive. I think that things could go wrong.
We're 5 minutes in right now, and Chiro, he almost had a shot, but this is the first time I've seen Inter in possession. I feel like Lazio's kind of been controlling it. Granted, it's the opening 5 minutes, so don't worry about it. But I mean, things are looking decent, I suppose. I don't know.
The way that I'll feel about this game is the result that they get. Standings wise, a Lazio win or draw is perfect, but I actually think an Inter win will be more beneficial for us in terms of we know that we've got to go to that derby then chasing. They're going to go into it a bit not confident as such, but they'll be like, we're first. They might become a bit complacent. I think for the team, it might be the best result that Inter win, because if they lose, they'll be like, that Spezia game doesn't really matter and we're still top, blah, blah, blah. Whereas if Inter do go top, we'll be like, shit, we need that back now.
Yeah,
and we'll attack them straight away.
Question for you guys. Do you know how Inter have the fans around the stadium on the board? Do you think they have the Inter fan who was at the U.S. Capitol when they tried to take it over?
Is that real or was that a photo?
No, it was real. It was real.
It was
Seriously?
Yeah.
That is funny. That is funny. I hope they do. Not for everyone and all that.
Of them.
What a weird motto that is, by the way. Your club, not for everyone. Like,
Right.
All right, cheers for that. Who's it
We're
for
excluded already. Yeah.
then? Yeah. Brothers
Go-
of the world.
Going back to the game to build on John's point, I guess in a way there almost is no bad result. You know, if they draw, we stay top. If Lazio win, we stay top. If Inter win, then that just means the gap between us and not having Champions League is that much bigger. So it just depends on what like your personal goal for the season is. I'm starting to lean towards Scudetto, but almost. I'm leaning towards Scudetto, so I'm obviously rooting for Lazio today. But at the same time, like going into the season, just Champions League qualification was the goal, and at that point, Inter winning makes that much more likely for us. So, I mean, little silver lining there.
I think if Inter do win, we go a point behind him, and then a draw is enough for us because then we'd go above on head to head, wouldn't we?
No, we'd still be a
that's what
point.
it comes down to towards.
No, we would be.
No, we'd be level on points.
If we draw them, no, because
we'd
they'd
have
get
the
a point
head
as
advantage.
well.
They would.
Yeah, they get a point as we'd still be behind them if we.
Yeah,
but
we'd
yeah,
be behind them.
Then we've got the head
to head
advantage towards the end of the season. So
Which
I
is
think no result is like a bad result today, but I think, like I said, for the team's morale, an Inter win might be more beneficial.
I'll tell you what I wouldn't like, the idea of us still being in first going into that game and losing the derby and then some kind of ridiculous, you know what Lukaku would do? He'd like plant the corner flag or something daft. You know, I couldn't stand that. So yeah, but also rocket up the arse. I think we've been confident and comfortable in possession of first place for almost too long now. And I think it would be nice for us to have to go into a game, and what better game to do it, and really show the league that we're not a fluke and that we are deservedly up there.
Yeah, I mean that all sounds nice, but at the same time, I would much rather just stay in first the entire season than have any.
Nice.
I just
trouble.
really want Champions League, and this team is not looking like a team that will play in Champions League if we keep on playing like we did.
We did it against Spezia, but I would argue the rest of the season we haven't looked like a team that's winning the Champions League, but I think we've been Champions League quality this season.
Yeah, I think the game against Spezia highlights a few players that maybe are Champions League quality for when we get there. But I'm not going to say just because of the Spezia loss, I'm going to start worrying that we're not going to qualify. I do think we will qualify, and I'm not going to pretend now that I'm not hoping that we don't win the Scudetto, because that's my goal now. Personally, I want to see us win it. Like, I don't want to be top for 22 games of the season and then throw it away. It's just, it's more embarrassing. And I think, I think it's more embarrassing for us if we do lose after being top for so long.
Yeah,
I agree.
It would be a real poisonous.
Well, and if you look back at right when the season began, or even right before it, Zlatan gave that interview and he said, there's the goal, and then there's the team's goal, and we're not going to tell you what it is. And everyone knew that meant Scudetto, but it was all kind of like tongue in cheek. But now it's like we're 22 games in, and they're sticking to their goal, Scudetto. So let's try and get that. I don't.
Maybe if Romagnoli was sticking to his goal of the Scudetto, he wouldn't have underestimated Spezia.
That
right,
I completely
questions.
agree. Yeah.
No, let's do predictions actually for the derby. What I'm going to say is that form goes out the window for this game. We've seen it so many times. It tends to just be whatever team shows up on the day for the majority of the game. But what I do think about this is that it might be one of those where the occasion is almost too big, and that the teams might be a little bit fearful of how big a game it really is, and they might cancel each other out as a result. For that reason, I'm going with what I see as a logical 1-1 draw.
I hope not, man. I want all 3 points. I'm going to go 2-1. With an Ibra winner in like the 89th minute.
I'd get on a plane and get on the pitch.
I'm gonna go with 3-1 to us, and I think Ibra he's got making up to do from the Spezia game. He's got making up to do from the last derby match in the Coppa. Like he'll be up for it, and I hope that the lads have now had the rocket up their arse and they're going to be up for it. So I'm going to go 3-1.
So I'm going to be a little all over the place here because I'm going to give you 2 predictions, and they're not even close to the same. I'm going to say either 3-2 for Inter or a 0-0 draw.
I'd rather it with the first one.
You'd rather Inter win?
5 goals. No.
Okay, fair enough.
No.
I just think they're either going to cancel each other out entirely, and it's going to be a total stalemate, or we're going to push, and Inter's going to push back harder, and it'll be similar to the first match.
Yeah, it could well be. I was just thinking of that first game, and I don't know. That was such a weird game. Now I look back on it, because we had this thing about conceding at the wrong time, and we conceded just after going 2-0 up, really. And I thought after that we had another implosion incoming, like when we went 2-0 up and lost 4-2. But it just didn't come. We were resolute in that second half. I think that was one of our best performances. We kept them at bay. But we're going to have to produce something pretty special if we are to beat them. Would be nice to do a double as well.
If Lautaro keeps shooting like he just did right now, we're fine.
I think for me, it depends on the centre-back pairing for the derby, on what happens.
What would you pick?
I'd pick Tomori Kier.
What do you think he's going to pick?
Personally,
you can't bench Romagnoli. If you can bench Romagnoli, then you can strip him from the armband.
Well, no. Do you know what? Actually, Tomori Romagnoli did well in the Coppa. So I just think Tomori's got to start, and then whoever out of the other two flip the coin.
I don't want to spend too long on this because it's purely speculation at this point. But do you think there's a worry that Kier can't give us 90 minutes anymore? He seems to keep getting these back problems.
It's because he's carrying the whole goddamn back line on his back, and then he's falling on it.
Nice. No, he did look rusty yesterday. I thought he looked pretty rusty.
Yeah. Well, and then he had that big drop. Look, I guarantee it's going to be Romagnoli and Kier starting. Bottom line, I want to see Tomori on the pitch, and I don't care who his partner is. I think Tomori's going to probably be our best center back.
He's currently our best centre back, I think, too.
I won't even argue against that.
Agree.
I think he's fantastic, and he brings that pace that none of our defenders have, outside of Teo, who's not really playing much in defense. So
Kier's not as slow as he looks, but yeah, you're right. Tomori is just probably the fastest player in our team, to be honest. And Tomori Romagnoli looked good because I think they complemented each other well. One of them stayed back. Romagnoli stayed back and almost played sweeper. Tomori was aggressive. He went to... This is the thing as well that we had a discussion about earlier. We got bullied without Spezia even playing their top scorer this season, and Zola. They played...
Both people who scored against us
Agudelo.
First Serie A goals.
Yeah,
and
they played...
the second goal is going to be the best goal that guy ever
It's his
scored.
first for 4 years, Bastoni. Yeah, they played Agudelo as a false nine, and he was dropping really deep. And it was a game like that where we really needed Tomori. So I have to question the selection there because Tomori would have followed the runner and he would have made sure that he doesn't even have half a second to receive the ball. But what ended up happening is he had the freedom of he was in between the lines. He was in between the double pivot and the back four, and he had the freedom of Liguria to basically turn and do whatever he wanted, and he bullied us. And Saponara had Dalot running scared because of that. It was a real mess.
Yeah.
So,
well, if Tomori's on
We
the
just
pitch,
didn't
that
show
first
any
goal
effort.
doesn't happen. I think Tomori's quick enough that if Teo's running forward and Tomori's running forward and Teo loses the ball, Tomori's quick enough to get back and defend, whereas Romagnoli's then caught out. Kier's caught out. I think Tomori's pace gives Teo the freedom to move forward without having to worry about what happens if I don't make a goal off this run. He could cover that defensive gap, which we know Teo's going to leave because he gets forward so much. So I think Tomori helps other players on the pitch just by simply being there, and almost.
I realise as I'm looking through this list of questions that we've kind of inadvertently discussed most of them, but we'll go through them nonetheless.
Sorry, just for that, are we predicting the Red Star game?
Shit, yeah, we better do. So, yeah, I think this is going to be tough because I think we're going to rotate, and I think we have to rotate, to be honest. I think given our next two fixtures in Serie A, it would almost be foolish to go there. And I've said for the last 2 weeks on this pod now that I think just don't lose the first leg and then back ourselves to do it at home, hopefully off the back of a positive result in the derby. Red Star absolutely flying in the league, runaway leaders. They've not lost a game all season, massively outscoring every team that they play. We've seen the threat that can carry. They're going to come into this game with confidence. Especially given the fact this game's actually going to be played in Belgrade, unlike a lot of the other ties that are basically in neutral venues. So I think this might be tough. And for that reason, I'm going to say that we resolutely hang on and get a 0-0 draw.
I think it's going to be a 2-1 victory for us, where we're going to start off going down early and then have to come back in the second half.
An away goal would be
a routine 2-3-0 win.
I'm
fairly confident.
2-1 win, and we'll come from behind and show a little bit of heart.
I think part of it as well, that it depends on this Inter result. If Inter, for example, lose, we can go into that Europe match thinking, if they do want to rest some players so everyone's fully fit for the derby, win the derby game, go 5 points clear of Inter, and then put everything into the second leg, knowing that, yeah, we've got Roma, but even if we lose to Roma, we've still got a cushion for that week. I think so much of our preparations, whether people like it or not, depend on this result tonight between Inter and Lazio.
Yeah. Another thing as well is that, there's a bit of an unknown quantity thing about our opponent. We've seen with Sparta Prague, for example, gave us a good game, and they're not even top of their league. Lille obviously gave us two really good games. Celtic were 2-0 up against us at home, and they're having an awful season. Bodo Glimt flying in their league, for example, and we made hard work of it at home at San Siro against a team that most people had never heard of, with all due respect. There is that unpredictability factor. That's why I want us to show them respect, but at the same time, we've got to rotate. This is the perfect time to give Mandzukic his first start. This is the time to give, hopefully, Brahim's back so we can have him. If not, then, we're going to have to play Hakan, but... and Castillejo on the right and No Hauger on the left, obviously, but maybe this is where Rebic comes back in for it. That being said, I'd start Leao and I'd keep Rebic for the derby.
I think with all them teams that you mentioned and all, I think we did give that. I think we underestimated them, and also hopefully we've learned our lesson after the Spezia game, where we shouldn't underestimate any team and just go for it from the off. And we do need a big win before the Inter game, but we also, if we can just see to it in the second leg, then see to it in the first leg, then we can be comfortable in the second leg when we've got Roma coming up, who arguably are a direct rival for the Champions League spot, which is another must-win game.
It's still only 9 points, that's the bottom line. And while ever it's less than 10 points, I don't feel entirely comfortable, That's the mad thing, is that we've had such a historically good start to the season, and top four is by no means wrapped up. And Inter have got a penalty.
You're ahead of me then. I'm not.
You're way ahead of me.
I think that might be overturned, to be honest. It looked like a good tackle. But yeah, I guess, an away goal, for example, would be massive. An away goal in Belgrade would be great. But we'll see.
I think we need to be thankful that there's no fans there.
Great tackle.
Because it can be quite a nasty atmosphere
Yeah,
We-
that's a great tackle. Anyway,
Can
questions.
that card be overturned because he gave a yellow, and yellows can't be overturned? But since it's a penalty review,
It's
can
not
they
a
overturn that
penalty,
card?
Are they reviewing it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely fine. So anyway, the Rossoneri Sverige podcast, Sverige, I'll get it one day. The Swedish podcast basically says, should we panic or should we keep doing what we're doing?
That is
I
a good
think we
tackle.
just keep doing what we're doing, but we just need to have a plan B, which we don't look like we've got. We need to have an in-game adaptability, not a post-game adaptability. We need to be able to. We've got the versatility on the pitch to be able to switch things up in-game and have a plan B.
We need to be proactive, not reactive. That's what I'd say. It's all good with the benefit of hindsight saying after the game that we got stuff wrong, blah blah blah. But the proactivity would be nice.
I'd argue that all
out.
season we've been able to react when things like this have happened, but yesterday we just looked like we did not show up at all. Like we were not winning 50 balls. Like we just were not doing anything.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, we basically already touched on it earlier. Keep doing what we're doing, but like John said, be able to react, have a plan B.
They didn't reverse the penalty.
I think that's a really, really weird decision.
Did Lukaku score it?
But anyway, no, not yet. Rayner's doing his best shithousing by taking ages to get in there. As a follow-up from that, Lab Gorilla says, this was actually a reply to another tweet and not the question tweet. Yep, scored. Have Atalanta shown the league the template to beat Milan? All it takes is some pressing and everything goes to shit.
I think Lille showed the template, and the league just now figuring that out. But also, most of the league doesn't have the capability to press like that. I mean, Spezia can get away with it because they're new guys, so not everyone's really watching what they're doing and letting them kind of get away with experimenting. Atalanta's always played that way, so yeah, it's the blueprint. But at the same time, I don't think like the Lazios of the league, the Genoas, they're not going to be able to pull off that type of press.
I fucking hate Lukaku. I always have. Even when he was at
I didn't even
Everton,
look.
I didn't
I'm
like
not watching it.
Yeah. Ludwig, two-part question. Pioli's done exceptional work at Milan, and I hope he picks up the good trend again. But which coach in world football would you like to see at Milan if we needed a new one? Availability doesn't matter. So this is obviously just a hypothetical. Nobody's saying Pioli out or whatever, but just...
Yeah.
Oh, City have really hit another gear, haven't they, in the last sort of couple of months, and they've been a joy to watch again.
Dude, it's the only league that he has not coached at, and why not coach the best team in Italian
Because
history?
I don't want him at Juve.
I was going to say that.
I think Guardiola's a great manager, but
needs money.
I prefer Klopp. Yeah, because he needs money. I'm not saying Klopp doesn't need money, but I just think the way that we're playing already, like because we do press ourselves in, our characteristics of the team are slightly more suited to Klopp as opposed to Guardiola. And I think Guardiola would need a whole new squad to near enough get in the way that we want to play, maybe by
I
2 or
would
3
love
players.
Jurgen Klopp at
Win
Everton.
it. Not me.
I'm sorry, at AC
Not for me.
No.
Can't stand the bloke.
Guy's crying because he lost.
Yeah, I will say
Well, his
that,
mom also just died, so
Yeah, I realized that as soon as I said it. I was like, I'll give him a pass, actually. Fuck that guy. He's an asshole on top of that, though. I mean,
yeah, he is. Yeah, it doesn't give
everyone's
him an excuse
favorite
for being...
person in the world until things go bad. Now he's being a addicted journalist. Like, fuck this guy.
That was bad. Like, regardless of the things that you think actually what's going on in the background, which is tragic, and obviously, condolences and everything, that would make him slightly more empathetic and a little bit more. But in actual fact, it appeared to turn him into a snappy dick, which, not ideal. But
he's German.
Similar kind of theme, but I'll go with Julian Nagelsmann for the same reason.
Yeah.
Pressing, exciting young manager, knows what to do with young players because he's worked with the Leipzig project. Might be people who are like, we already said no to Ranić once. Why would we say yes to his son and stuff like that? But yeah, I like Nagelsmann. I think they play fantastic football. I hope he brings Poulsen with him to be the new deputy sweeper.
If
A bit
we
more-
do not win the Scudetto, does Pioli stay manager?
Yeah,
Yeah, of course he does.
I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
Unless we massively fall off.
Yeah,
unless
if we
we
don't get
finish
Champions
fifth.
League football, then he's got to go. But other than that, there's no reason.
People
for
have
him to
pointed to the worrying trend that happened when he took over at Inter and took them on a ridiculous run. And then towards the end of that season, they just burnt out, and he didn't even end up lasting a full season. My hope
Yeah, I
is
was
that
wondering
they
that.
learn
Did they
from
finish
that.
in the top 4 that season?
I think they were so bad that they started sort of as a relegation battling side, and then Pioli came in and took them in a charge up into the top 4, and then by the end they dropped out of the top 4. So
I think what I will say is about Maldini. I think if it does start going wrong and we drop out the top 4 before the season's over, I don't think he's going to be. He's not frightened to maybe sack Pioli and bring someone in just to guide us into the Champions League. If it goes drastically wrong and we find ourselves with 6-7 games to go and we're sat 6th in the league, I wouldn't put it past hiring some that he brings in his new manager and be like, get us into the Champions League.
What I will say is, obviously, it feels like this whole conversation is a little bit harsh. You know, he's done an incredible job so far as Pioli, without a doubt. When you consider what he inherited and what, start of 2020, we were fighting for a position in the top half. And here we are early in 2021 and we're fighting for top. So he's done an incredible job. So it feels a bit disingenuous to have this conversation even. But full faith in him because the management have full faith in him. And I think that's important. Based on recent games, has Leao earned a spot in the starting lineup, or would he have more impact as a super sub? I'll throw something else out there. First of all, is that there are a couple of reports. Milan News, one of them, so you can take it seriously, saying that we're considering trying Leao as a right winger, so we can have Rebic, Çalhanoğlu, and Leao behind Ibra and basically play our. For me, it's a no, and if you want to read why. Go to Devil's Advocate section on our website. You can read about it there. I won't just read it back out to you, but for me, it's a no.
I don't know why we wouldn't try that. That sounds fantastic.
It can't hurt to try. I mean, we'll see how he does on the right. I've seen him swap sides up before, and I don't think it's been terrible. But that right wing's been our weakest spot for 2-3 seasons now. Like, it can't hurt to give it a whirl. If not, though, then super sub. Because he has that pace, that explosiveness to beat people, and to bring on fresh legs in the 60th, 70th minute when everyone's tired and you really need to grind out a goal, that's the guy that's going to be able to do it.
I would also argue to have him as a super sub for Ibrahimovic.
Yeah. Originally, I was for it, but then you look at the game yesterday and we need an impact sub. So I think the way that we set up is perfect at the minute with Salamakers on the right, and then we've just got to pick the starter between Leao and Rebic because both of them can have impacts when they're starting, but both can impact coming off the bench, and one of them is going to have to take up that role, unfortunately. And I just don't know which. I don't know which one it's going to be.
I would have him as an impact sub for the time being, purely because I think that having Rebic from the start, we know the work rate that he brings. He's actually now finally combining that with attacking production, and also it feels like you get the best version of Teo when we have Rebic on that left side, and I think that's important. And then Leao is very good at coming on when the game's in progress, because the last thing you want is a rapid winger with skills who's not frightened to take you on as when you're knackered as fullback in the 70th minute.
I think the other thing is, if we're looking at Leao being Ibra's deputy, then it's better to have him as a impact sub, have Rebic starting, and then have Haug as the Rebic replacement. So then we've got two players that can kind of, well, definitely Leao can come on and change the game. Haug, I'm not so sure yet, but I think that's going to be more beneficial. There's no point if Leao's the concrete option to be a starter as a striker when Ibra leaves, then there's no point wasting time with him on the left and just have him as the impact sub.
Yeah, fair points. Sorry, I should have. I think that might actually be it. Yeah, we've basically answered the other questions, so we might as well wrap it up there, boys. Like I said, we may have a special pre-derby preview, just trying to fit some pieces in place for that. As mentioned, if you haven't already, go and buy a virtual ticket for the derby. The lads need the support, the charity need the support, so that would be great. Matt, did you want to say anything about the FIFA tournament?
Yeah, Gian and I are participating in a FIFA tournament for Milan Club Montreal. It helps the same foundation, correct? Yeah.
Yep.
And for every goal that SempreMilan TV concedes or scores, we will donate $5. So hopefully it's not a 0-0 draw.
Well, it's a tournament,
Richie-
so you'll get extra time at least.
I could just imagine Maddie keeping the ball in the corner because Dogecoin has absolutely plummeted.
Hey, it's
and
back
can't
up.
afford. Oh,
Is
that's
it?
good. That's good news.
I'm
I don't think it is.
Haven't
on
checked.
a Sunday, I would be surprised. But yeah, so to do that, check that out. The details are on SempreMilan TV account. As will be all the links for this podcast. And yeah, in the meantime, thank you very much for listening, everybody. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher or at Kilpin Chronicle. AJ?
Yep, Torgid45. How about it, boys?
Edward underscore Toth. No, underscore
Two
Toth.
underscores. Yeah, there you go.
At UK underscore AC Milan.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and we'll catch you in a week's time.
Andrea Conti, bella palla per Rebic, Ibra, Rebic, il tiro, gol!